Hello everybody and welcome back, and let us continue. Basically from here what we want to do is, first of all, we want to find out the name of the database included in this server. Now, in order for us to do that, we use this command. So let us just add 2 for the user ID, apostrophe, and then once again union select. And then what we want to do is basically add 2 functions that will give us the name of the database and the name of the users linked to the database. So database and then 2 parentheses, which is the syntax for the functions in the code, then comma users, and then again 2 parentheses. And at the end we add hashtag and then the apostrophe. So let us just run this. Oops, function DVA users does not exist. So let's see what's up with that. Let me just try it like this. Function DVA users doesn't exist. So let me just check out why does it give that. It should exist. Or maybe it is user. Yeah, it was a user, so it's not the users and then parentheses, it is user and then parentheses. So as we can see, we got the name of the database with this function, and the name of the database is DVWA, and the name of the user that is correspondent to that database is DVA at localhost. Now that we got the name, we want to go further on, and let us run our next command, which we will type right here. So 2 as an ID, and then we type here again union select, then follow up with me right here. So SQLmap underscore name, and then comma 2 from information underscore schema dot schemata, I believe that is how it is pronounced, and then we at the end specify the comment once again. Now let me just run this and then I will explain what did I run. As we can see right here, the information underscore schema has basically all configuration and information for the MySQL database. So the DVWA should be the database for this application. Now, this might be a little bit hard for you at the moment, especially if you do not have any previous SQL knowledge or knowledge about SQL injection. This is basically some of the advanced part for this, so it might take you a few times to rewatch this and search on the internet a few things in order to understand this fully, but that's okay. We'll continue right here, so you will have the material to practice once you learn all of this. Now let's just continue. So we ran this command right here, and we can see that the DVWA is the database for this server, for this application. Now the information, now we should send the query for tables in order to find out what tables are in the DWA database. And we can do that with this command. So we start off with the ID once again, and then union select, then we want to select table underscore name, comma 2 from information underscore schema dot tables, where table schema equals apostrophe DVWA, which is our database. And then we specify the hashtag for the comment, and we end it with the apostrophe. We use the hashtag as a comment, so it should ignore the rest of the code that comes after the hashtag. So as we can see right here, we got 2 tables. One of it is guestbook and the other one is users. Now you as an attacker will most likely be interested in this table called users, as it possibly could have some passwords and usernames or any other valuable information in it. So after we discover the tables, we want to basically discover the columns in those tables, and we will target this table right here, which is the users table. Now we want to find out what columns are there in that table, so we type here to apostrophe union select, and also, by the way, this union select you can also type in smaller letters. It doesn't have to be capital, so you can type everything in smaller letters. I just type it in capital in order to differentiate the SQL commands from the tables and columns and all of that. So I will continue with the capital letters. So union select. Now what we want is to select column name. We also want to select the column type from information underscore schema dot columns. Now in the previous one we selected from the information underscore schema dot tables, and now we want to select from information underscore schema dot columns, where table underscore schema, let me just see, oh, I didn't type it well, so schema equals apostrophe dvwa and table underscore name equals users. And of course we end with our hashtag and then apostrophe. Now what we specified in this command, we basically said where table schema equals apostrophe dvwa, that's us selecting the database, and table name equals users, that's us selecting the table that we want to gather columns from. So if we run this right here, you will see we get a bunch of these columns in the table users. So this is our command right here. And we can see we selected the database dvwa and table name users, and we were looking for the column name and column type. The column name will be this thing, so user ID, first name, last name, user, password, avatar, and column type would be the varchar and then the number in the parentheses. Now out of all of this, we are most likely going to be interested in the password one. As we can see, for the password there is specified the 32 characters as a max for that particular input. And now that we got that, we basically want to gather all of this information and print them out on the screen. You do not want to print out just password, since you won't be knowing to who that password belongs. What we want to do, we want to basically print out the first name, last name, and then the user and password for that first name and last name, so we know to who that username and that password belongs to. And for that we will use a special command called concat, which will basically, as it says, concat two things for us, since we only can output two things with this application, which is the first name and the surname. So we want to be able to print all of the information in these two outputs. So what we will do, we will print the user ID, first name and last name in the first name input, in the first name output, and we will print out the username and password under the surname output. Now let me see what I mean by that. So we'll type our last command with this. So 2 for the ID, then the apostrophe, and then what we want to do is union select. And now we want to concat. First thing we want to concat would be the user ID. So user ID, as we see it right here, it is a column in the users table. So we want to split it with the dash, so we know where it ends. So we split it with dash, we add first name to it, which is the second column in the users table. You can see it right here. And then we split that by the empty space. So just open up apostrophe and then empty space and then another apostrophe and then comma, and last thing we want to print under the first output, which is last name. So this is our first, or let me just, maybe it's easier for you, you can't really see the command right here, so let me just type it in leafpad, and then I will copy it to the website. So let us just open leafpad once again so you can see the whole command, since this command could be possibly a little bit hard to understand. Just lower this so I can also open the Firefox. I do not need this, I need this. So let's start off with the command once again. So we started off as every command, which is to as a user ID, and then apostrophe, and then union select, and as I said, we want to concat a few information so that we can output all of them. We open parentheses, user ID, I believe it's that is the first column, as we can see right here, user ID. Then we want to type comma, and then open apostrophe, and then dash, close the apostrophe, and then another comma, and then first name, which is the second column, I believe. Let us check out. Yes, it is the first underscore name. Then we want to, basically what we want to is add a empty space so that we can also type the last name after it, and then last name, last underscore name, and close parentheses. So let us see if it is really last name. Yeah, it is last name. So after that we want to concat the username and password as well. So we type here comma and then concat, and we want to concat in the second output the user. So let me see, it is called the user. Yeah, it is right here. And the password. Now we will split these two with the two dots. So apostrophe, two dots, and then apostrophe, and then comma password. Let me see if it is password. It should be. Yeah, it is. So we will print out the password, and we want to select from where are we selecting all this information. So from dvwa.user. I believe that's how it is called. So we will just type that right here. Or maybe it is users. Let me just check out if it says anything right here. Yes, table is called users. And then we add the hashtag, so it should ignore everything else from this command, from the rest of the code. So now that we selected all of this, let us try out this command. It shouldn't give us any error unless I mistyped something. So we copy this, we paste it right here, and then we submit. And as you can see, our output gave us all of the users, their username, their passwords, their first name, their last name, and their user ID. As we can see, in the first output, which is the first name, we got the user ID, which we concated these three things. Maybe he's a bad example. Let us go to the Gordon. So user ID for Gordon is 2. Then we added the dash. Then we added first name, then empty space, then last name for the first output, which is under the first name. As we can see, this right here corresponds to this. And in the surname section, we added the username and the password, which for the Gordon Brown, the username would be Gordon B, and then separated, we have the password right here. Now, you might be asking, these passwords look a little bit weird. That is because these are not really passwords, these are the hashed versions of the passwords. So if you try to, example, log in with this password, it won't work. This is the password that is encrypted with some algorithm. I will show you how to decrypt it in a few seconds. So let us just check out some of the other users first. So we have another user under the ID 3, which is called hack and last name me. Once again, this right here corresponds to this right here. And the user for that account, the username for that account is Pablo, and the hashed version of his password is this. we can see that in total we have 6 users right here, and we got all of their passwords. Now, we got to the end of the columns, we got all of their usernames, we got all of their passwords, all of their information, yet we still can't log in since these are hashed version of their passwords. Now, the most easiest way to find out which type of encryption are they hashed is to copy the hash itself. So let us just copy the first hash. You just copy it and just paste it in Google. And if it is a known hash, it will print out what type of hash it is. Now, since I already know this is the MD5 hash, and there are a bunch of MD5 hash websites that are used to decrypt the hash itself. As we can see, the hash MD5 is admin. So the password for the admin account is admin, as we already knew. But let us try to also decrypt all of these other passwords. So now that we know that the hash type is MD5, all of the other passwords will also be the hash type MD5. So let us just type in the Google simply Md5 Decrypter, and here we can just go onto the first link, for example, it doesn't even matter. List your MD5 hashes. So stated, let me just see where do we type it, or let me just go to this one, free and fast MD5 encryption. Wait, I do not want to encrypt, I want to decrypt. MD5 encryption. We want MD5 decryption. Here it is, but I went one step back. I believe this is the same website. Yeah, it is. So we go to the MD5 online, free MD5 decryption, and here you just type here you just paste here your hash password, and it will decrypt it if it is in the database. So let us go with the first one. Even though we already decrypted the first one and we said it was admin, let us just check that once again. So we copy, we paste it right here. So copy, paste, decrypt, and it gives us some of the, so let us just select all images with cars. I don't know why this popped up right here, but we can verify it. Hopefully it doesn't go on with thousands of these screens. Okay, I believe it is over. And here we can see that it found the password for this hash, which is admin. Now let us try another password from different users. So let's go with the Gordon's password. We copy Gordon's hashed value of that password and we type it right here. So paste, decrypt, and once again we get this confirmation. And I also don't know why this asks, but it doesn't really matter. Let us just click OK, and let's see what Gordon's password is. And Gordon's password is ABC123. Now you can also decrypt everyone's password right here, and if you are wondering how this works, you can just read it right here. It says MD5 is a 128-bit encryption algorithm which generates a hexadecimal hash of 32 characters regardless of the input word size. Now how this website works, it basically has a huge database of hashed passwords and their decrypted passwords. As we can see, there are over 1,000 billion passwords in this database, and most likely all of these hashed version of passwords, will be in that database, and you can check that. So let's just go on with all of these hashed versions. We can just type it right here, paste it, decrypt it, and it will store front. So let us just select the store front and let us decrypt the password. So for the HackMe account, the password is Charlie. Now let us not go over all of these passwords, since it always asks me for some, either to select cars from the pictures or storefronts. It doesn't even matter, so I won't be bothering with the rest of the passwords. You can check them out if you want to, just to check what the passwords for these accounts are. I believe they are all in this database right here, since it is a huge database. And that's about it. So we successfully exploited the SQL injection. We manually exploited, which is the advanced part from this. So there are a bunch of tools that automate this process, but it is good to know how this process works, and it is good to do it manually a few times in order for you to understand it. And then later on you can use other tools if you want to in order to automate this process. Now I will just show you in the next video what is the blind SQL injection, which is a lot harder than this one since we get the output right here, but in the blind one we will not get output, and it is most likely the case that you will always encounter. So I will show you how that works. We won't cover the entire blind SQL injection since that would take a lot of time, but we will cover but I will show you how you can start with it. So that was it for this lecture, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and right now I will show you the blind SQL injection. So you also have it under the dev-vulnerable web application directory, so you just log in right here where we were in the previous tutorials and just go onto the SQL injection blind. Now you will see the same output, or not the same output, it is basically the same version as the visible SQL injection. Just right here, if you type the apostrophe, for example, it won't print out the error, which makes it blind, so we do not really know if it is vulnerable or not at all. As we can see in the previous one, once we typed the apostrophe and submitted, it gave us the error in SQL syntax. But if you type right here, if you type 2 and then 2 apostrophes, you can see that it actually gave the output for the second user, which basically means that injecting is possible. It didn't give us an error about syntax or anything, it just gave us the output for the second user. Now what does this mean? It basically means if we type here the same command as we used in the previous one, so we, for example, use the user under the ID of 1, and then we type here and 1 equals 1, and we submit that, we will get the user under ID 1. But if we type 1 and 1 equals 2, wait, I forgot the apostrophe, it won't give us any output. Now, we can conclude from this that the correct statement will give us output, while the wrong statement or not true statement will not give us any output. So we know that 1 equals 1, and when we type that, we notice that we got the output for the user under the ID number 1, and when we type the 1 equals 2, we got nothing as the output, which means that the statement is not correct. So we can conclude that we can only know if answer is correct or not. So all our queries that we will be using from now on need to be constructed so that you receive a yes or no answer. Now, what does that mean? That means that the only way that we can, for example, do the first step, which is discovering the name of the database, is by brute forcing every character. Now, if you type here, since we already know the name of our database, we did it in the previous. Oops, pardon me. What am I doing right here? Wait, was I all the time on the normal SQL? Let me just check it right here. So we get that right here, and then if we try this one, we get no output. But what about this one? We should get something. Oh yes, it's right here. So you can see that the SQL, let me just go to the blind one. You can see, let's just type once again, and 1 equals 2. You can see the SQL query in the link itself. That means that first of all, this SQL query is sent with the GET request, and second of all, we can see that some of the characters of our query are encoded. For example, this %3d is encoded. Well, basically that is the only thing that's encoded, but it doesn't matter. What I was saying is that you basically need to brute force every character in order to find out whether, for example, the first step, which is the name of the database. And as I said, if we type here and database function, which gives the name of the database, as we saw in the previous video, and we type here dvwa. Now, we know that the database name really is dvwa, so this will be a true statement, and we will get the ID, the user under the ID 1, since this is a true statement. But if we type here a false statement, so we use the same here, but we misspell one letter, so dvww, and click here on submit, you will notice that we actually don't get any output, which means this is not a true statement. So the first one will give answer since dvwa is correct, and the second one won't print out anything, so it's not correct answer. Now we can carry on with this method in order to find out the further things. So what you would do is basically you would type here the same command right here, and let's say you don't know what the name of the database is, you would just basically type here any letter, so let's say it's D, or let's say it's actually G. And then you go to the burp suite, you turn intercept on, and then you submit this. You will see that we send this via GET request, and what you want to do is basically, as we can see, this is encoded and our letter is G. And here you would send this, what you would do, let us just go and find that packet. Here it is. What you would do is you would send this packet to the intruder, and then from here you would select only the letter, the first letter, and you would compare the result by the difference in the answer of the length. Now, what I said, basically we did this similar kind of thing in the brute forcing attack, where we actually try to see which response gets different length. So the same method applies right here, and once you discover which letter gives different length of a response, you would know that that letter is the first letter of the database name. Now also what you would need, first you would clear all of this, then you would select only the letter which is here in the link, and then you would brute force that letter with all of the letters from the alphabet. So you would have to create a password list, which is basically only A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and supply it in the payload section right here. Wait, let me open burp suite. In the payload section right here, you would supply that list with all of those letters, and then once it finishes, you will see the different length of a response for the correct letter. Now, once you find first letter, you would do that for the second letter, and for the third letter, and for the fourth letter, and finally you would find out that the DVWA is the correct, basically the correct name for the database. And then you would proceed on with the tables, and then the columns, and then the user, and all of that stuff that we covered previously. So that's why this would take a lot longer than the previous video, so I will not be doing it. There's no really point in sitting here 2 hours just to do the same thing as in the previous video. So basically it is the method where you brute force every letter and then you find out the correct name. The principle and the commands are all the same as in the previous video. So that's about it for the blind SQL injection. We won't be really doing it since there's no time to waste. We need to cover more things, such as the SQL map. Now, what is the SQL map? So let me just close all of the things. Wait, I did not want to save it. So let me just click here on X and click here No. So what SQL map is it is basically the program or the tool that comes pre-installed in Kali Linux, and it is used since it automates the process of SQL injections. So all of the stuff that we did manually in the previous lesson and the lesson before that, we can do automatically by this tool. That's why it's easy to use, and you basically don't need to know anything about the SQL language or any type of queries in order to do this. You only need to provide the link, the level of inspection, the risk, and some other options, and it will run on its own. So as I said, it comes pre-installed in the Kali Linux, so just type here SQLmap and it will print out your available options. Or wait, it will print out errors, so in order to see our options, just type here --help, and right now we see our available options. So let us scroll up a little bit. What we have here is the verbosity level, then the -u for the URL, so you will always need to specify this. Then what we have is Google Dork, checktor, proxy, so you can set proxy, cookie equals cookie, so you can basically even set the cookie, the data, DBMS, so you can check out all of these options. We won't be covering in the detail since we covered the harder part, which is the manual SQL injection. This is only one command, so we will do it on a specific website, or not website, on a specific page on our virtual machine OWASP. So let me just open up Firefox once again. So go onto your OWASP virtual machine, 192.168.1.6 I believe, and go right here on the however you spell this out, however you say this, motilde 2. The proxy server is refusing connections. Well, that could be because I closed burpsuit. That's what happens when you think you don't need something and then you actually do need it once again. So let us just open burpsuit real quick. So click here OK. Then we go here next once it opens up. Let's wait for it. So next, and we wait for this to open. Now, while this is opening, let me just tell you that the SQLmap can be used both for SQL injection and blind SQL injection, and it can also find table names and columns, and it can extract usernames and their hashed passwords. Also, it can use different techniques of encoding to bypass some of the defenses such as filtering and IPS. And it also can work with the Metasploit framework, which we didn't cover yet and we will cover in the future tutorials. But it is a good thing to know that it is possible to mix these two. So let us continue onto our virtual machine. So let us reload this page, and where you want to go right here is, I believe it is under the OWASP. Let me just try to find it. User info, it could be SQL, or maybe under the web services, and then the rest SQL injection user account management. Nope, it's not right here. I don't know why I thought it was right here. Let us just find it. What about this? Name, username, password. Okay, so it is this page right here. And let's say, since we know that this is vulnerable to the SQL, since it is under the user info SQL, we can just basically try anything right here. So let's just go on and then view account details. You can see that there is not an account under that username and password, of course, but we got the link. So we want to test this website for the SQL injection, for example. You will just copy the link, then you type here SQLmap -u to specify the URL, then apostrophe, so open double apostrophe, then paste the link, close apostrophe, and then what we want to specify is the input that we want to scan. So let's say for this type of scan we want to scan the username input. So you just type here -p, I believe it's -p, let me just enlarge this and see it for myself. So -p minus p test parameters, so testable parameters. We want to test the username parameter, so just type here username. And what we want to do is use also the schema. So we did that in the previous video. I explained what the information schema and all of that is. The p is the specified parameter that we scan. So once you do that, you can also add some of the other options right here if you want to. For example, level of scan, so level of test to perform, default is 1, level of risk, so you can set the risk to be under 3, but I believe it will be more difficult then, not difficult but more detectable then. And here this minus schema, as you can see right here, it says enumerate DBS schema. So if you let this to run, it will take some time, I believe. I don't know if I finished it before. So it will ask you some of the questions. Make sure to read them under when they pop up. So it says right here, it looks like the backend DBMS is MySQL. Do you want to skip test payload specific for other DBMSs? We want to say yes, since I believe it really is the MySQL. So for the remaining tests, do you want to include all tests for MySQL extended provided level 1 and risk 1 values? We want to click here yes. If you don't want, you can specify the level and risk in the command itself. And basically you can let this run and it will automate the entire process of the SQL injection for you. Once it finishes this, basically I believe it will print out the tables and columns and all of that, and you can basically manually, not manually, but you can automatically with a single number choose an option to check out what it found. But I believe this process takes a little bit longer to finish, so we won't be waiting for this to end. We will cut the tutorial right now, and in the next tutorial we will cover the XML injection. We will do it only in the one tutorial since it is not that important as the SQL injection and as the cross-site scripting attack that we will do after it. So that's about it for this tutorial. You can wait for this to finish if you want to see what other things it will print out or what other questions it may ask you. And until then, I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and right now we finished the SQL injection part, which could have been for you a little bit hard to understand, and I always encourage you to read more about it. That will make you understand it a little bit better, and also you can watch other tutorials online on how to perform the SQL injection with SQLmap or manually. The more tutorials you watch, the better you will get, and so on. But right now we want to cover another attack, which is the XML injection. So let's first talk about it. Well, some applications may do their searches in XML file or XML database, which basically allows us to perform the XML injection. And when user sends the XML format information that application should read, so users basically as an input send the XML format information, and the application or the web server basically reads that. And if we type it as a code, or as a code, it might interpret it as a part of the code if it is not filtered correctly. It is the same principle as in the previous two attacks, which is the command injection and SQL injection. So basically all of these attacks are just badly written website code or badly filtered user input. So in order for you to understand it better, you will need to know the basic XML structure. It basically looks similar to the HTML. It has a root node, child node, element, and I believe it also has those two arrows that are at the beginning and at the end of every command. So it is very it looks a lot like the HTML code. So let us actually see the practical use of this attack. So what we want to do, go once again onto the virtual machine OWASP and go once again onto the IP address. So let me just go back 1 or 2 or 3 times. So once you are here, you want to go to the BWAP, which is right here. I don't believe we went here in the previous videos, but this is the first time, so just click right here and it will open up something that looks like this. So now what we want to do, first of all we want to log in, as it says right here, enter your credentials, debug, so you can just log in right here, or if you want to, you can also train your brute forcing attack. Just add to some username list or password list these two words and run your brute force attack in Hydra or in burpsuit in order to practice a little bit, but we won't be doing that right now since we did it twice in previous videos. So let me just log in right here with the specified username and specified password. Set the security level. For now on we will leave it on low since this is the tutorial video. We want to show you from the beginning how it looks like, and once you log in, don't save password. Once you log in right here, you want to search for the XPath injection search. So as we can see right here, we have a bunch of the methods right here that we can use to practice our attacks, and what we want to search for is, let me just find it, A1 injection, server-side SQL injection, we covered that. Oops, SQL XPath, here it is, so XML XPath injection search. Once you find that, just click on it right here and click on hack. And you will see that we load a simple page which basically searches movies by their genre. So as we can see, the action movies, if you click here search, it will print out 6 of these movies. You can have some of the other options, for example horror movies. You click here search and we get 2 movies, which is Resident Evil and The Underworld. And you can also check the science fiction and click here on search, and you basically get the same output as the action movies. So what we want to do, first thing you might notice is there isn't any user input right here. There isn't any specific field right here that allows us to type something. Well, we don't really need it. This search box right here, which chooses between 3 types, is actually our user input. You do not type it, but you do send your choice to the server. So let us just intercept this packet real quick. So we go onto our burpsuit, we turn the intercept on, and now what we want to do is go onto our page and search for the action movies, for example. So just click here on search. Our page will load since we are intercepting it, and if we go right here to the packet that we received in the intercept, we can see that in the link there is a specified genre which says action, and the action which says search. So these two are correspondent to this right here and this right here. And let's see what happens if we, for example, change this packet before we forward it to the server. So let's try to inject action and then once again inject apostrophe after that. Let's see how the server will handle this packet. So we basically sending action and then the apostrophe, so we forward this. And let's see what server basically gave us. And sure enough, it gave us the invalid expression, which means we successfully found a vulnerability. Warning, simple XML element XPath invalid expression in this file right here on line 158. Warning, simple, and another warning, evaluation failed in the same file on line 158. No movies were found. So we can see that the server actually read this as a part of code. Now let's check something else as well. So let me just search for the action. Wait, we have the intercept on once again. Let's turn it off. Let's go to the page itself. So we are back to the same thing. Now what we want to do is exploit and possibly find some usernames and passwords, if there are any. what we want to check next is whether this application will interpret the part of this word right here as well as the whole word. So once we send action, it prints out the action movies, but let's try that again by sending only a part of that word. So let us just turn our intercept on and search once again. So now that it is stuck, we go to our burp suite, and why is it so slow? Here it is. And let us delete a part of this word. So delete ion and leave act. And let's see if the server will recognize this as a part of the word action. So if we turn off the intercept, we can see that we got the same output as if we search for the action. Now, with anyone with a little bit knowledge of the XML will know basically that since it gives the same result as the action word, we know that it uses a function which is called contains. Now, contains basically does the same thing as it says. For example, it searches for all of the results that contain even a part of the word. So, for example, act is contained in action. That's why it gave us the same output. Now that we know that it uses that function, which is contains, once again, we can do something very, very funny, as you will see right here. It could be a little bit hard to understand, but basically we will try to select once again to something similar as in the previous video in the SQL injection. When we said 1 equals 1, we'll try to type here something like contains 1 which will print out all of the results in the database. Let me just show you. So we turned on our intercept, and if we search right here, what we want to go to is burp suite. So let me just go back to it. Whoops, not other applications. We want to click right here. And let us delete action first. So we delete action. And what we want to type right here is the apostrophe, then the closed right parentheses, then the closed bigger right parentheses, then slash, you just find it, slash, star, and then 2 slashes, and then once again star. Then we type the left open bigger parentheses, and then we type here contains, and then open left smaller parentheses, apostrophe 1, closed apostrophe, comma, open apostrophe, pardon me, so comma, open apostrophe 1. So you will see that if we forward this packet, so I'm not really sure why it doesn't give us the forward option. Here it is. It is just a little bit slow. What is this? We do not want this, so let us forward this packet and let's see what output we got from this server. No movies were found. Well, oh, wait a second. Let me just try this once again. I think I know what's the problem. The problem could be that I deleted the action. So let us just do that once again. So search, we go to the burp suite. It is a little bit slow, so we type the same thing once again. So just type the same thing that you typed previously. So let us just do it starts with apostrophe, then the open right parentheses, open bigger right parentheses. Then what we do is slash, star, 2 slashes. Let me just move my mouse. 2 slashes, star. And then we want the open left parentheses, open contains, open smaller left parentheses, apostrophe 1, apostrophe, comma, open 1, open apostrophe 1, and that's about it. So let me just see if this will work. if we send that, no movies were found. Not really sure why it says this. Let's just try something else. I think I know what the problem is. Okay, I realized the problem was that I was missing a character, so let us do that once again. So intercept on, search, it is stuck, so we go to the burp suite and we type in the genre we type the same thing, but follow up with me right now. We need to add a little bit of something else, so let us just start off with the apostrophe. Then open left parenthesis, open right parenthesis, open right bigger parenthesis, slash, and then the star sign, and then we want to use the pipeline, which is the upper line, and then we continue with the same, so 2 slashes and then the star sign again, and then we open the left bigger parenthesis, contains, which is the function, and then we open apostrophe, or open left parenthesis, smaller ones, apostrophe 1, apostrophe, comma, open apostrophe 1. So let me just copy this so I can show you how it looks if you can't see it. So I will just copy it. I will open LeafPad and let me paste it right here. You should see it a little bit better. Just see if I can't enlarge this. So this is the command that we are using right here. So what we did in previously, we basically forgot this pipe command, this pipe sign right here. So let us just forward this packet and see what happens. So I don't know why this pops up, forward, and let's go to the page right now, and as you can see, we got bunch of the options that aren't really movies. As we can see, Neo, Trinity, and then randomly there is a movie, and then we have some of the numbers right here. Basically what these are, this is the username, this is the password for this username, as well as this Alice loves zombies, as well as this Thor and Asgard. So we basically successfully exploited the XML database with that one command, and we can see the usernames and passwords of different people right here, and it gave us in the list as if these were movies. So that's how you manually exploit the XML with the Xml injection. Now let's do the same. Now, let me show you how you can automate this process with a tool. But I will show you this in the next lecture, and then after that we will start the cross-site scripting attacks. So I hope I see you in the next lecture, and take care. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and in this video I will show you how to download a specific tool which you can use in order to automate the process of XML injection. Now, in the previous video we saw how to do it manually with the contains function, and we were able to gather the usernames and passwords of different accounts on that website in the XML database. Now, that was the manual process of attacking that website, but since you do not want to do it every time, you can just download a simple tool and it will automate the entire process for you. Now, I will not cover that tool since using tools is much easier than actually doing the manual attack, so you can just check out some of the options that the tool gives you and you can use it, and I will just show you how you can install it. So in order to get this tool, since it is not pre-installed in the Kali Linux, what you want to do is run basic 2 commands. One of them is apt-get install python 3 -pip. Now, I already have this installed, so this will not install anything for me, but for you it will start installing the python 3 pip, which you will use a lot, not only for this tool, you will use to download all of the other tools that we will use for now on. Well, not all of them, but some of them. So if you just type here if you just type enter, let me just see. Oh yeah, so it is not install, it is install. Just press here enter, and as we can see, I already have it right here downloaded. You can download it yourself, and once you do that, what you want to do is download the program itself. Now I already have the program downloaded as well, but I will show you the command in order to do that. So just type pip3 and then install XCAT. Once you type this command, press enter, and it should start downloading the command for you. And since I already have it installed, it says right here the requirement already satisfied. Now once you finish this, and once you have all the required satisfied and have pip3 installed, you can just basically run XCAT and see the available options that you have for that. And then you can also try to run the automated attack on the website that we already attacked in the previous lecture. But that's about it for the XML injection. We will not cover it in great detail, such as SQLmap and cross-site scripting, since it is not that important for us at the moment. And in the next video we will cover the cross-site scripting attacks, and I will show you the power of the scripting languages on a certain website. So before we end this, let me just tell you how you can prevent all of these attacks. If you, for example, wanted to create your own website or something like that, you could easily prevent these attacks by filtering the user input. So the user input, whether it is in the search bar or, for example, typing in the username or password, or basically anywhere where you allow the user of that website to type something, you should always filter for potentially dangerous characters, or any characters that could involve or that could possibly be interpreted as a part of code. So especially the dangerous characters such as the apostrophe or double quotes or something like that. As we saw, it can make a lot of problem, especially in the SQL injection and as well in the XML injection, as we saw in the previous video. You want to filter out the big and small parentheses as well, so not just the quote marks. You want to filter out all of these characters. You also want to filter out some of the special characters such as question mark, comma or something like that, or percentage sign, and all of that. And also what you want to filter out is the comment characters. So the common characters, as we saw in the SQL injection, is the hashtag. But it doesn't have to be the hashtag. The comment characters are also in the SQL are 2 slashes like this. This can also be interpreted as a comment, which means that everything that comes after these 2 slashes will not be read as a part of code, will not be read at all. And for those of you who learn C, know that this is also, the 2 slashes are also the interpretation for comment in the C language as well. Another type of comment can be the double dash, so just type here dash dash or minus minus. It is also a version of comment in the SQL language as well. So in the previous videos where we covered SQL and typed the hash at the end, you could have typed any of these 3. I just chose hash since it is only 1 character. It makes it easier. And basically what you want to do is filter out all of these special characters in order for user to not be able to communicate with the code on the server. And that's about it for these lectures of XML and SQL injection. In the next one I will show you the cross-site scripting attack, and we will finish the web penetration testing there. So I hope I see you in the next lecture, and take care. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and let us start off with the cross-site scripting attack, which is also, I believe, after the SQL injection, one of the most common attacks found on the website applications. So what is the cross-site scripting attack vulnerability? Well, basically, your web browser is interpreter of code, which uses HTML and script code for showing documents including texts, pictures, and videos, for example. Now, what that means that it basically allows users to interact with dynamic elements, including search fields, hyperlinks, forms, video, audio controls, and many other. Now, besides the HTML code itself, there is most likely going to be a script code that allows all of that. Now, the most commonly used script code would be the JavaScript, and it is used to make your website, or basically any website on the internet, more dynamic. Now, why am I talking all of this? Well, basically, when user input is used to determine the script code, and the input isn't filtered well enough, you get the cross-site scripting vulnerability. Now, what I mean by that? Well, for example, let's say you have a website, and basically what you when you click on something or when you type something in, a thing pops up on your screen or moves left from right on the website, or basically anything that makes a website more dynamic to you that was caused by you can be used to make the cross-site scripting vulnerability work there. It happens when script code is added in user input field and browser executes it as a code instead of some kind of data. For example, you type in the user input green and your screen turns green. It is basically some kind of interaction with the website, and if you type there a script code and the user input isn't filtered, as in this SQL and command injection and XML injection, it can be read as the script code. As I said, the mostly used script code is the JavaScript, but it can also be some of the other, for example, such as the VBS scripts or any other script code. Now, let me just open LeafPad right here before I continue talking about this, since this is a theoretical part where you need to understand basically what am I saying. So the most common XSS attack, or cross-site scripting, so basically XSS is the short for cross-site scripting. The most common attack would include something like this. The attacker which performs the attack, so the attacker that performs the attack, the vulnerable web application, the victim which uses web browser, and some website that attacker wants to, for example, redirect. Let me just make this a proper English. So JavaScript can be used to redirect vulnerable websites, and it is most commonly what you will see. So, for example, when you visit some kind of website, let's say you visit again an online shop for flowers, and you click on a specific link that leads you to that shop, and suddenly you are on some website that sells cars, for example. You will know that it was done with a redirection using, for example, JavaScript. Now, since it is redirect from flowers to cars, it was most likely a part of the attack from some of the hacker that redirected it to his own website or to someone's website that paid him to do that. That is the most common thing that you will do, and and someone as a victim that uses web browser, he basically just goes to the web flower shop and suddenly gets redirected to buy cars, which makes no sense at all, but it happens. Now, in order for us to show a simple example of cross-site scripting, let us just go to our virtual machine. Let me just close it and open the login page once again. I'm not really sure how did I load it with this IP address, since my OS virtual machine is in the .1.9, but it doesn't matter at the moment. So what we want to do from here, we want to go to the DVWA, so then vulnerable web application. Go once again on there. And once you go there, it will lead you to the same page that we were before on, with the SQL injection and command injection. This is taking a little bit slow. Let me just check out the IP address, whether I typed the correct one. So I've config.1.6, it should load it any second right now. Or yeah, I maybe have the burp suit on and the intercept on, of course. I always forget to turn that off, so let us load the page right now. It asks us for username and password. It is admin. Click here on login. Don't save. And what you want to go on is the XSS reflected and XSS stored. Now, the stored XSS is basically, how would I say this, the injected code is saved on the web server or in the database, and application will show it to every user that visits the page. The goal of stored XSS is to infect every visitor of the website. It is the most dangerous type of the XSS. Why is it the most dangerous? Because it is basically an attack on the website itself, and if you send a code, it will be saved on the website and it will send the same page to everyone who requires that website. Now, the reason that is dangerous is because you, as for example a victim, could just be visiting that website and run my JavaScript code, and basically I could exploit your web browser or anything that I've written in that code right there. Or it could be just a simple message that is usually left to let someone know that they're vulnerable to the cross-site scripting attack. Now, the reflected XSS, instead of sending the script to the server as in stored attack, the reflected attack is linked with JavaScript that we send to the victim. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So let us go to the XSS reflected, and as we can see right here, it will ask us what's your name. Now this is the example of interactive web page. So if we type here our name is John and we submit that, you can see that right here it will type hello John. Now we can see the source of the code, which of course on the normal websites you won't be able to see it, but we don't really need it right here. You can test this on any website that you are pen testing to see if it is vulnerable to the cross-site scripting attack, and that would be simply to type here script. Let me just, so this arrow, then script, then you close that arrow, then alert, open parentheses, then apostrophe, and then for example let's type here hello, then close the apostrophe, then close the parentheses, then this arrow once again, slash, and then script, and then close this arrow. So if we submit this, and you will see that it shows us a window that says hello. And as easy as that, we now know that this page is vulnerable to the cross-site scripting attack, since we were able to send a part of JavaScript code and the page interpreted it as the part of the server code. So I'm not really sure, let me just go right here and back to here. Yeah, it won't be showing us that once again. So that was the example, the easy example of the reflected cross-site scripting attack. Now, you can do that, you can run some malicious code, but let's use the same code once again. And once you click here submit, you can copy this link right here and send it to anyone. So let's just say, for example, this link, and you send that to over an email or over Messenger or any other social media application, and someone clicks on this link, so they go, I will just copy and paste it since I don't have anyone to send it to, and they click the link, you will notice that it will run the same window for them even though they didn't type anything in here. So basically anyone that visits this link will run this JavaScript code within their page. Now this code is not malicious, so it doesn't really do anything, but it could be malicious. For example, it could steal cookies, for example, and hijack a session with that. Now you might say, well, this link right here looks really suspicious, and that is true, but there are lots of websites on the internet that shorten the link or change the link so that you cannot recognize anything in the link itself. So that could be another option. Now, that's about it for the reflected cross-site scripting attack, and we will continue with the cross-site scripting in the next lecture. I hope I see you there, and take care. Bye.